The palace glimmered with soft light that night, but beneath its beauty, shadows moved in silence. The alien princess sat in her private chamber, staring at the silver pendant the human had given her. She turned it over in her hand again and again, as if searching for meaning. Her mind was restless, caught between pride and curiosity, anger and something deeper she dared not name. Outside her door, the whispers of nobles grew darker. They gathered in hidden rooms, voices sharp with venom. She listens to him too closely, one muttered. Already her eyes betray doubt. If she accepts him, she will be no longer ours. She will become his, another hissed. Better she dies than stand beside a human. If her loyalty wavers, the last of our crown falls with her. They agreed in silence, sharp knives glinting. In the dim light, plans formed in whispers, death moving through the palace like smoke. The princess knew her people mistrusted her, but she did not realize how far their hatred had grown. She was still deep in thought when her chamber door creaked. She looked up, frowning. Who enters without? But the words froze in her throat. 3 masked assassins slipped into the room, their blades gleaming. Her eyes widened in shock. She stumbled back, clutching the pendant tight in her hand. Her voice cracked with fury. You dare enter my chamber with steel? One assassin hissed. Forgive us, princess, but better your blood spills than your honor. Her heart raced. She backed against the wall. Her guards were far, the hall silent. For the first time, she felt true fear. Her weapon was across the room, and her body trembled. The assassins lunged forward, yet before steel could reach her, the doors burst open. The human commander stood there, eyes blazing like fire, his blade drawn, his armor catching the torchlight. He moved like a storm, without hesitation. His sword clashed with the first assassin's blade. Sparks flying, the princess gasped, her chest tightening. In one swift motion, the human disarmed the attacker, a heavy kick sending him crashing to the floor. The second assassin rushed forward, but the commander twisted, striking with brutal precision. His blade pierced through the mask, and the assassin fell. The last one hesitated, his eyes flicking between the princess and the human. For a moment he seemed ready to flee. But then, with a desperate cry, he lunged. The human caught him mid-strike, his sword flashing. The assassin collapsed, lifeless. The room fell silent, broken only by the princess's ragged breathing. The human wiped his blade clean and turned to her. His eyes softened though his voice remained steady. Are you hurt? She shook her head slowly, her hands trembling as she dropped the pendant onto the table. No. But if you had not come. Her voice faltered. He stepped closer, his presence steady. I said I would prove myself, and I will, not with words, but with action. You are not alone, not while I breathe. Her chest tightened. She wanted to look away, but his words rooted her in place. Her voice was weak but sharp. Why? Why do you care? I am not your kind. I am your enemy. My people plotted to destroy you, yet you risked your life to shield me. The commander's eyes locked onto hers, calm and unflinching. Because loyalty is not about blood. It is about choice. You may not trust me yet, but I will fight for you until you see the truth. Her hands clenched against her dress. Her heart raced. She felt anger, confusion, and something else she had no name for. He had stood against death for her without hesitation. While her own nobles whispered of betrayal, she lowered her voice, trembling. My own people tried to kill me tonight, yet you saved me. What am I to believe? He stepped back slightly, giving her space. Believe what you see, not what you are told, he said. Your nobles see only pride, but I see you strong, defiant, unwilling to break. That is why I chose you, not for power, but for who you are. The princess's breath caught. Her glowing eyes searched his face for lies, but she found none. He stood tall, not gloating, not mocking, simply speaking truth. The palace guards arrived late, their eyes widening at the bodies on the floor. The captain of her guard stammered, Princess, we We heard nothing. The human's gaze hardened. You heard nothing because you chose not to. Her enemies are not only outside these walls, they are here within them. The princess looked at her guards, then back at the human, her heart filled with fury at the betrayal of her own people, yet also with gratitude toward the one she had called enemy. That night, as the assassins' bodies were carried away, the princess stood at her window again. Her fingers touched the silver pendant. Her heart whispered what her lips could not say. He protected me. He kept his word. For the first time, the fire of curiosity in her heart burned brighter then. Her pride. She was no longer asking if he was trying to bind her. She was asking what it might mean if he truly wanted to stand beside her. And deep down, she feared the answer, because it might change everything. The princess could not sleep that night. The silver pendant lay on her table, glowing faintly under the moonlight streaming through her window. She turned it over again and again in her hands. Her mind raced with thoughts of the human commander. His words, his calm voice, his strange proposal. She hated the way her heart refused to dismiss him. She hated the curiosity he had planted inside her at dawn. She received word that the commander requested her presence in the palace gardens. The guards wanted to deny him, but she allowed it. Her pride told her to refuse, but her curiosity forced her steps forward. She found him waiting among the tall crystal trees, his armor set aside. He wore only a simple uniform, plain and practical. He looked less like a conqueror and more like a soldier who had seen too much of war. His gaze lifted to her, steady as always. "You came," he said, his voice calm. "I should not have," she replied sharply, folding her arms. "My people already whisper that I have been bewitched." He gave a faint smile. "Do you always listen to whispers?" Her eyes narrowed. "You play dangerous games, human. Do not mistake my presence for trust." "I don't," he said simply. "That is why I asked to meet you. I want to show you something." He gestured to a small device on the stone bench. A projector flared to life. Images appeared in the air, humans laughing together, families sharing meals, men and women standing side by side on distant battlefields, some scarred, some weary, yet all united. The princess tilted her head, suspicion in her eyes. "What is this? Propaganda?" "No," he answered. "This is life. This is what humans fight for, not thrones or crowns, but each other. This is why I asked you to be my wife, not to bind you as a symbol, but because I believe you understand what it means. To fight for more than yourself." Her chest tightened. She stared at the images. She had grown up in a palace where alliances were built with lies, where loyalty lasted only as long as it brought power. Yet here were humans showing something else entirely. "You expect me to believe humans are noble?" she asked bitterly. "We heard stories of your wars, of your fury. They said you were monsters who burned worlds without mercy." The commander nodded. "Yes, we have done terrible things. Humanity has teeth. But unlike your nobles, we do not fight only for pride. We fight to protect, to endure, to build something greater. That is what makes us dangerous, not cruelty, but loyalty." The princess turned away, her heart in turmoil. Loyalty. That is a word I do not trust. My people betray each other for a crown, for gold, for scraps of power. Do you truly expect me to believe loyalty lasts? The commander stepped closer, his voice low but firm. "I do not expect you to believe. I expect you to see, watch us, judge us by our actions, not our words." For a moment she looked at him, his eyes burning with certainty. He was not pleading. He was not trying to charm her. He was simply stating truth that made her more uneasy than lies would have. Later that day, she was forced to attend a council with her surviving nobles. They hissed with venom. "He is poisoning your mind, princess. Do not listen. Humans are snakes. They seek to wrap themselves around your throat with honeyed words." She raised her chin, her voice sharp. "And yet, when I stood alone, none of you protected me. When the assassins came to my door, who stood in my defense? Not you, not any of you, but the very human you call snake." The council fell silent. their eyes burning with shame and anger. One of them spat, "If you side with him, you are no princess of ours." Her voice thundered across the chamber. "Then perhaps it is time you ask yourselves what a true leader should be." That night, her heart still wrestled with anger and curiosity. Against her will, she found herself thinking of the human again. His calm eyes, his strange words, the way he carried himself like a man who bowed to no one. She whispered to herself, "He is unlike any I have known." The next evening, she agreed to meet him again. This time he took her to the training grounds. Human soldiers sparred with alien guards. Humans fought not with arrogance, but with discipline. When one fell, another helped him up. When one stumbled, others covered. Their unity was startling. The princess watched silently. Her people fought like wolves, each for themselves. But humans fought like a single pack, each move tied to another. It made them stronger, fiercer, almost unstoppable. The commander looked at her and said quietly, "This is what I want you to understand. We do not bind with chains, we bind with bonds. That is why I chose you, not to humiliate you, but to stand beside me." Her lips trembled. She turned away quickly, her voice sharp. "You confuse me, human. I should hate you. Yet every moment I spend near you makes me question everything I was taught." The commander gave no smile, no satisfaction. His reply was simple. "Good, question everything. That is the beginning of truth." Her heart pounded as she walked away. Her mind swirled with fury and curiosity. She had never felt so divided, so lost, and yet so alive. For the first time, she wondered if marriage to a human was not humiliation, but transformation. The great hall remained tense long after the human commander had left. The alien nobles whispered in corners, their voices dripping with fury and fear. Some called the proposal an insult, others a trap. Yet none dared deny the truth. The human commander had spoken with confidence, as if no one could oppose him. The alien princess sat upon her throne, her heart still pounding. She tried to steady her breath, but her mind raced with questions. Why would a human want marriage instead of chains? Why offer her respect instead of humiliation? She clenched her fists, determined not to let his strange words shake her. Yet the echo of his voice lingered in her ears. Later, in her private chambers, the princess paced back and forth, her crown set discarded on the table. Her advisors knelt before her, urging her to refuse. One spoke harshly, "Princess, you must not consider this madness. If you marry him, you surrender your crown, your bloodline, your pride." Another added, "He seeks to break you, not with shackles, but with words. It is a clever human trick. They conquer hearts when swords cannot." The princess stopped pacing, her glowing eyes narrowed. "And yet, he did not take me by force. He did not mock me before the hall. He gave me a choice." She lifted her head with pride. "If this is a trick, then it is unlike any I have seen." Her advisors looked uneasy. One whispered, "Do not be fooled. Humans speak of loyalty, but they hunger for control." The princess dismissed them with a wave of her hand. She needed silence. She needed to think. Alone, she gazed out of her chamber window, the stars burning bright above. Somewhere among them was Earth, the fabled cradle of humanity. She whispered to herself, "Why do you seek me, human? Out of all the stars, why me?" The following day, the human commander returned, not with soldiers, but alone. His armor gleamed faintly in the torchlight as he stepped into her chamber. The guards tensed, but the princess raised her hand, allowing him to enter. She stood tall, her silver-white hair cascading over her shoulders. Her voice was sharp. "You come without invitation. Have you no respect for my station?" The commander bowed his head slightly, surprising her. "I respect you more than your own people do," he said calmly. "That is why I am here. Not to force, but to explain." Her lips tightened. She folded her arms. "Then explain, why me? Why marriage? Why not declare victory and enslave us like so many others would?" The commander's gaze was steady. "Because humans do not seek chains, we seek bonds. We do not conquer with fear. We conquer with loyalty. When I saw you stand tall, even in defeat, when I saw you silence your nobles with your voice alone, I knew you were no prisoner. You were a queen, and queens are not chained, they are chosen. Her breath caught in her throat. For a moment she saw not an enemy, but someone who truly meant his words. She turned away quickly, hiding the flicker of doubt in her eyes. And if I refuse? She asked, her voice colder. The human's reply was calm, but there was iron beneath it. That I will not chain you. But know this, your people will be torn apart by their own pride. Nobles will fight for scraps. Empires will consume you. I offer you a path where you are not a captive, but a partner. His words cut deep because she knew they were true. Already her advisors schemed behind her back. Already rival nobles sought to use her as a symbol for rebellion. She was a crown without power, a queen without a kingdom. She turned back to him, her voice sharp but uncertain. You speak of loyalty, yet how can I trust you? How can I trust humans? The commander stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. Trust is not given, it is proven. Let me prove it. Not with chains, but with my actions. Her chest tightened. Her heart betrayed her with its racing beat. She hated the way his voice carried weight. Hated the way her people's whispers made her doubt. And yet, curiosity burned within her. That night, as she walked the palace halls, she overheard the nobles whispering. Their voices were filled with venom. If she agrees, she is no longer ours, one said. Better she die than lie beside a human, another hissed. The princess's hand gripped the wall to steady herself. Her own people plotted against her, not because of chains, but because of pride. She whispered to herself, perhaps he was right. Perhaps my greatest enemy is not him, but them. When she returned to her chamber, she found a gift waiting. A small pendant of silver, simple but beautiful. It bore no human emblem, only a symbol of unity. A message written in human script was tied to it. She read the words slowly. Not as prisoner, not as trophy, but as equal. Her fingers trembled. As she held the pendant, her eyes glowed with confusion, rage, and something else, something dangerous. She whispered into the night, you confuse me, human. You make me angry. You make me curious. And for the first time since the war ended, she wondered not what her fate would be, but what her choice would become. The great hall of the alien palace was filled with silence. The war was over. The banners of the old empire burned, and the last surviving nobles stood in shame before the victorious humans. At the center of it all stood the alien princess, her silver crown still resting on her head, though her world had crumbled. Her bright blue eyes held both fire and fear as she waited to hear her fate. The human commander stepped forward, tall and unyielding in his dark armor. His soldiers stood behind him in perfect discipline. The princess expected harsh words, exile, or chains. She had heard humans were ruthless, conquerors who showed no mercy. Her heart pounded as she braced herself for humiliation. But then, in a calm and steady voice, the human spoke words that shook the hall. This war is finished. From today forward, you will not be our prisoner. You will be my wife. The hall gasped. Nobles cried out in outrage. Some shouted that it was an insult. Others whispered that it was a human trick. The princess herself froze, her lips parted in shock. She stared at the commander with disbelief. Her voice trembled as she repeated his words. You're taking me as your wife. Really? The commander's eyes did not waver. He spoke with certainty. Yes, this is not a joke. This is not a mockery. This is my choice. Her legs weakened beneath her. She gripped the edge of her throne to steady herself. Anger rushed through her chest. How dare a human speak so boldly? How dare he declare something so outrageous in front of her people? She lifted her chin, her voice sharp. I am a princess, not a prize for your amusement. The commander did not flinch. His gaze held hers with the weight of iron. You are not a prize. You are a leader, strong even in defeat. I will not chain you. I will stand beside you. That is why I choose you as my wife. The nobles hissed with fury. Some demanded the princess refuse. Others shouted for her to spit in his face. Their pride burned hotter than their reason, yet deep down, many of them feared the truth. Humans did not make empty promises. If he said she would be his wife, he meant it. The princess's heart raced. She could not understand his intent. Was this a strategy to humiliate her? Was this a way to bind her people under human rule forever? Or was it something stranger, something even more dangerous, a bond not of chains, but of trust? She took a step forward, her silver dress sweeping across the floor. Her voice shook with anger. Why me? You could have chosen power. You could have forced obedience with fear. Why this? Why marriage? The commander's voice was calm but carried across the entire hall. Because fear fades, power crumbles, but loyalty lasts. Humans do not take wives as trophies. We take wives as partners. I do not want your throne. I want your strength at my side. Her chest tightened at his words. For the first time she hesitated. Something in his voice was not cruel, not mocking. There was steel in it, yes, but also a strange kind of respect. The nobles saw her silence and grew frantic. One of them shouted, "Princess, this is madness. If you agree, you betray your blood. If you accept, you surrender everything to them." Another hissed, "Better death than to marry a human." The princess turned sharply, her eyes flashing with anger. "Silence," she ordered, her voice cracked like thunder. For a moment the hall stilled. Even the humans seemed surprised by her command. She stood tall again, her pride returning. Her eyes locked once more on the human commander. "You shame me with your words. You break every tradition I know yet. You did not humiliate me. You did not chain me. You gave me a choice." Her voice lowered, her heart pounding. "But I will not answer now." The commander inclined his head slightly, his expression unreadable. "Take your time, princess. But know this. I did not ask to shame you. I asked because I see more in you than even your people do. I asked because I believe this union can change more than thrones and banners. It can change the future." The princess's hands trembled. She felt the eyes of her people burning into her back. She felt the steady gaze of the human commander in front of her. Between pride, fear, and something she could not name, her thoughts twisted. The hall was silent again. So silent that her racing heartbeat echoed in her ears. She whispered to herself, barely audible, "Why do I feel like this is not a threat?" The commander's voice broke the silence one last time. "Think on my words, princess. I will wait, but not forever." He turned and left the hall, his soldiers following behind. The echo of their boots faded into the distance, leaving the princess surrounded by whispers and stares. Her people looked to her for rejection, for fury, for vengeance. But all she could feel was confusion, and deep within, the spark of something dangerous. Something she dared not name. As the hall doors closed, the princess sat back on her throne, her chest rising and falling rapidly. She had been prepared for chains, for exile, for death, but not for this, not for marriage, not for respect. She whispered again, her voice trembling, "You're taking me as your wife, really?" The words lingered in the air like fire, and the suspense of her answer hung heavy over the palace.